Fox Sports
You're hot.
Tech.
All right, Howard. Got some coaches that were hired in the last 24 hours. I'd love to get your take on Harbaugh with the Chargers, as well as the Bucks and Panthers, the Panthers and now the Falcons with their hire. Which one do you think is going to have the quickest amount of success?
Well, you would think it would be the Chargers, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, that pairing with them and Jim Harbaugh and having a quarterback and Justin Herbert just seems like a perfect combination. Obviously, they still have to hire a general manager and all that, but there's some pretty good talent on that roster already. And this was a team that underachieved last season. They lost a lot of games. I think they lost 5 or 6 games by 3 points. And so it wasn't like they were a bad football team, but the record turned out to be bad. So you would have to believe that this is going to be a team that, who knows, maybe could challenge the Chiefs in the division, but certainly be in the hunt in the AFC, which of course is a very, very difficult conference. I'm curious, certainly with both, especially the Falcons with, they bring in Raheem Morris, who's a defensive coordinator. So his biggest hire will be who comes in as an offensive coordinator. We've seen an incredible amount of change in those in the offensive coordinator position all around the NFL in the last couple of seasons. And so who he brings in and who the quarterback is, will it be Desmond Ridder? Will it be someone new? I mean, that's the big question for the Falcons in the offseason, and will certainly have a lot to say with how successful Raheem Morris is as a head coach. And then with the Panthers, can, Dave Canales, who did a good job with Baker Mayfield this year, but everyone knows Baker Mayfield has talent. And so now can he get, a lot out of Bryce Young where he struggled in his rookie season? So, those are big question marks, but, certainly the Chargers look to be in great position to be a really good team next year. And of course, the best thing about it, guys, is the Harbaughs will play each other.
Yeah.
The Chargers play the Ravens. And so that should be an interesting one whenever the NFL puts that on. I would be shocked if it's not on prime time.
Any insight on Washington and Seattle?
I mean, they continue to interview a whole bunch of people. Dan Quinn is the latest, who's going to have a in-person interview with the Seahawks. And, Washington's interviewed a lot of different candidates. They did interview Eric Bieniemy. So I know a lot of people are watching. That's been one of the interesting things about this cycle, is that aside from the Commanders, and of course Bieniemy was on that staff, his name was not linked. He was not interviewed, was not requested to be interviewed with any other team that I saw looking for a head coach. So I'm going to be very curious to see what happens. What happens with that one. But when you're down to 2, all of a sudden now you can be a little more choosy. But there's a lot of quality coaches out there. But the one thing I'll say once again is, aside from Harbaugh, the other coaches that have been hired earlier in the week was Brian Callahan. The Bengals offensive coordinator was hired by the Titans. So once again, we've got the tried and true stuff by NFL teams that hire offensive or defensive coordinators for the most part for these jobs. And then we see how they do, because not all of them are made out to be great head coaches.
And Howard, to the point with Harbaugh, he was the reports where he was headed back to Atlanta yesterday before the Spanos family said, nope, you're not leaving, you're our guy. And I know the control issues he had in San Francisco with the GM and even Ed York, the owner, that he wanted, and he pretty much forced that issue. How much control do you think of Jim Harbaugh, aside from the other guys who pretty much probably won't have that? Do you think he pretty much demanded to have that GM type control without the actual title?
Let's just say he's going to be very involved.
Yes.
I don't think there's any doubt about that, and he made that clear. And he's saying, but it would be shot. And certainly he is going to be very involved in this
3.
Continued search for a general manager, because they don't have one right now. But the thing is, the previous general manager did a pretty darn good job there in putting a roster together. Tom Telesco, who was just hired by the Raiders as their general manager. But that roster has pretty good talent. They still have a lot of the former personnel staff in place. We'll see what happens with the new general manager and how many changes are made. But it's very rare, guys, that changes are made immediately. because most of those guys are under contract through the end of the draft, and it's difficult to hire new people, at that stage at this stage of the process, with the draft only a few months away. But I'm sure that Harbaugh is going to be very involved in the talent acquisition and getting him the players that. But even if it's not saying, well, draft this guy or draft that guy, he'll certainly be involved. But certainly he is going to feel comfortable and be on the same page with whoever the Chargers hire to come in and head up that aspect of the organization.
Howard, look into your crystal ball and tell me, where will Justin Fields be? And also, I know, and also that guy in Denver who's just kind of floating around and has already been told, we're going to kick you out. Where's he going to be?
Yeah, those are great questions. And, who knows, maybe one of these guys lands in one of these spots where there's a new coach and they bring in someone that you really believe, and who knows, maybe Atlanta makes a move for Justin Fields. If in fact the Bears, everyone just assumes that they're going to trade him and select Caleb Williams. They hired their new offensive coordinator this week, guy's been with Seattle for a long time and other teams in the league, Shane Waldron. And I think a lot of what what they will do is within the Bears is listen to him. I mean, what do you think of Justin Fields? What's your feeling? Do you think that with the right scheme, the right players around him, that he can be a winning quarterback for this franchise? So I don't rule out that he could still be with the Bears, but if he is moved, certainly a team like the Falcons could be a possibility. Would the Raiders be a possibility? With Antonio Pierce, the head coach, and new general manager, they'll be looking for an offensive coordinator. So all of those things, all those chips, have to fall in the next few weeks.
Okay, quickly, because we're tight on time. Russell Wilson, my guy in Denver, where does he go?
Yeah, I mean that could be one of these teams with a new coach too. But the guy, he's not a young guy anymore. Obviously, how much do teams believe that he can be? Any team that would bring him in, it wouldn't be for the long term, obviously, but it could be a team that's going to draft a quarterback and wants Russell Wilson there right in the very beginning. So it's really tough. It's really tough to predict because you just don't know. Everybody's going to put out all their different stories and speculation, but it all depends on what a team and the coaching staff thinks of Russell Wilson, and that will determine where he potentially ends up.
Howard, good stuff as always, buddy. Thanks for the time today.
All right, guys, take care.
Howard Balzer, check him out online. HBalzer721 on Twitter and X. Appreciate him. He's brought to you today by Twin Peaks. That's where we're at today. You can still play the fan pick'em thanks to Blue Moon and Coors Light. Make your picks for the big games on Sunday, and you can win yourself a man card from Twin Peaks. Head to fanpick'em.com. Coming up.